11 persons die of strange ailments in Bonny local government area of Rivers State. Nigeria's total confirmed COVID-19 cases now 7,839. In international news, Hong Kong flares with protests over China's proposed legislation.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. 11 persons have died of a strange disease in Bonny local government area of Rivers State in the space of 2 weeks. Residents of the community say NCDC officials are already in town to take samples from volunteers for COVID-19 testing. Families of the deceased say loss of taste and smell were some of the symptoms they complained about before their death. Bonny residents say, besides that, the rate of water pollution in Bonny has increased. Nigeria's tally of confirmed COVID-19 cases has risen to 7,839 as Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirmed 313 new cases and 5 deaths in 17 states on Sunday. Lagos recorded the highest daily figure of cases with 148 infections. 2,263 COVID-19 patients have been discharged so far. NCDC also recorded 226 deaths in 34 states and the Federal Capital Territory. NCDC says Nigeria has so far tested more than 44,000 persons since the beginning of the pandemic. Kogi and Cross River have yet to record cases. The coronavirus pandemic has no doubt adversely affected the global economy, and the educational sector is at a frustrating receiving end. The United Nations Educational and Scientific Organization, UNESCO, has estimated almost 100% of the world's student population has been affected as a result of school closures. Correspondent Deja Matros gives us details of an alternative being offered by some Lagos schools.
It's a tuition-free school and operates in one of the urban slums in Lagos. All the pupils who attend Comenius Primary School come from disadvantaged backgrounds. The school has been shut down since March when the Lagos state government ordered all schools closed because of COVID-19. But while many schools are taking to online learning, Comenius cannot because it simply doesn't have the funds, while parents cannot afford computers or mobile data, let alone the cost of electricity.
We don't want to leave the children idle at home doing nothing. We want them to be engaged because they are powerful. Their mind is powerful. They could attract beautiful things. So we don't want them to start attracting negative things in the community, in the society.
Knowing e-learning is not possible for the school and its pupils, Uweye Taiwo and her team decided to take the learning to the pupils at their homes and communities. At this community, the teachers are preparing some of the pupils for the day's lessons. It's a routine before any lesson commences, and the pupils must also wear their face masks and observe physical distancing. The teachers then administer weekly worksheets to the pupils and take them through lessons on various subjects. It's essentially what happens in the classroom, but in this case, there's no writing board.
So we come every Monday, we work. We print out this worksheet. We ensure that we have adequate, numbers of these worksheets to pass around to the huge number of children that we're serving. So teachers, from Tuesday, teachers start going to the homes of these children to pass across this worksheet, and also they get those ones they gave out the previous weeks. And for marking, so when they mark, they find a way of getting these things back as well to the children. So this is how we've been juggling. This is how we've been ensuring that these children are learning.
Marking of the worksheets takes place in the school, again with physical distancing observed. The whole process is time-consuming, but the alternative would mean no learning at all for the students.
We want the best for every child because they also count in the growth of our dear nation. But we are hoping that we'll be able to get sponsors, we'll be able to get, funders, so that we can buy the necessary digital devices so that these children, can connect to the internet, can connect to e-learning, because there's so much as well to learn online.
Until they get that funding that could make virtual learning possible, Oweya Taiwo and her team say they will continue with their strategy of community schooling until schools can reopen.
Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika says British private charter company FlightJet has been penalized for violating Nigeria's COVID-19 airport directives. The company was recently authorized to conduct humanitarian flights but was caught operating commercial flights. The federal government had earlier banned commercial flights as part of measures to curb the spread of the new coronavirus. Only evacuation flights and flights for essential services such as delivery of food items or supplies for humanitarian use are currently allowed to operate in the country. FlightJet will pay ₦1 million fine to the federal government. Coming up, African stories. Hundreds of Kenyan truckers talk at Uganda border over delay in release of COVID-19 test result. And later, international news. Protest in Hong Kong over China's proposed new legislation.
You are watching ANN.
Hey, tell them. They told me you are the best around here.
What can I do for you, sir?
I want my own very simple. I don't want any shine. If I see any shine.
Actually, I'd love some sequins on my skirt. And I don't like any frills.
I beg, I want frills on mine. But it must not be too tight.
Tight! That tight now, that is what I want. And the transition.
Oh, you know what? I want a gown.
Me too. I want to come to
You know what GMS and this for coming? Hey, did you capture all the information?
Of course not.
Actually,
fantastic.
I give my customers what they love because everyone has their unique style. So why should they wear the same thing? Just like MTN for me, which gives unique data and recharge offers just the way you like it. Just dial *121# and turn up great offers every day.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Kenyan truck drivers are at their wits' ends after being tied down in a traffic backlog that has stretched for miles over the weekend. Reason: there are delays in releasing COVID-19 test results taken by Ugandan authorities to weed out infected drivers from entering the country. The scene is getting ugly. A correspondent Isabel Nakia reports from Malabar border.
Traffic at the different border points in the region is at standstill. Cargo trucks have been on queue for days, waiting for their COVID-19 results. And the crowding is causing fears of transmission to the community around the border areas.
There's even no food here, no water. We are just too stressed. We're tired and fed up.
The truckers are not allowed to proceed with their journeys once they turn positive. Uganda has so far turned back over 200 foreign truck drivers who tested positive. And the other ESC countries too are doing the same.
Uganda is a transit route for a large number of trucks destined to Rwanda, destined to South Sudan, destined to the DRC. So it is unwise for us to keep on keeping them in our country and treating them here. They would fill up all the hospital spaces.
Uganda revised its coronavirus cases downwards by striking foreign drivers off its tally. The decision to remove foreign truck drivers was made by President Museveni. Other regulations also forbid the truckers from stopping at undesignated points.
Even if you want to stop and eat, you are not allowed to get out of your truck. You are chased away instead.
Uganda's Ministry of Health says they are improving their systems to have COVID-19 results returned faster.
Bringing samples from the border points of entry to the central region where we are testing takes a bit of time. But when the tests are done, results need to be returned in the shortest time possible. We have now managed to put computers so we can scan the results and send them back online.
Guidelines by the World Health Organization requires that each country adds all cases that test positive to their tally. A meeting of heads of state from the East African region is due at the end of this month. It's hoped a solution on how to resolve the issue of cargo movement and the testing of drivers could be got.
South Africa has lifted one of its stringent lockdown measures to ban e-commerce in the country amid COVID-19. This is expected to dramatically turn around several South African businesses, especially those in online retail and courier, logistics and freight forwarding industries. Correspondent Julie Shu reports.
Online daily deals platform One Day Only has had its hands full since the e-commerce ban was lifted. Staff adhere to strict safety measures and customer packages are treated with great care. Over 2,000 products are received and dispatched daily from its Johannesburg warehouse.
It's been a really long, hard struggle over the last 2 months with having to swing the business around. And I think we've done incredibly well to pivot it and to supply so-called essential and level 4 items to our customers over the last 2 months. But it really is a big relief to be able to extend that base to all items except for wine and tobacco.
South Africa is expected to fall into recession after business activity was halted for close to 6 weeks to deal with the coronavirus. Locally made products are being pushed to inject some life into the economy as lockdown restrictions ease.
We are constantly looking at companies that are employing locally. So, for example, we've sold so many face masks. Those are just small businesses with machinists who can actually provide for their families. So that's been incredible. And we are starting to do days that are specifically focused on supporting local products. So really giving major attention to it. And hopefully that will mean an increase in employment for, smaller businesses that are locally producing, which is a really big driver.
Retailers saw a 200% boom in online grocery shopping when lockdown was in full force. There's now a growing appetite for other goods.
It has been very, very hard for people to be at home. Gyms are closed. So things like treadmills and running machines today, in fact, we're really focusing just on fitness items, kettlebells and exercise mats, etc. But in addition to that, people are at home. So they're really focusing on their home, beds, for example, kitchen items, air fryers, instant pots. So a lot of those kind of items. And then, of course, you've got clothing, a lot of winter clothing.
Online sales are shaping to beat estimates by 2 years. A 2% share of the $60 billion retail sales market, which was expected in 2022, is now likely to be achieved by the end of this year.
A lot of my shopping has actually moved online, and I see the trends as well across family members, friends, colleagues, and so forth. Being able to do that shopping online removes that fear. It's almost like a matter of life and death to an extent, in a sense that it frees you, it gives you the convenience that you need. You can be with your family and you can also be safe.
Since government lifted the e-commerce ban, South African online sales have exploded. Before the pandemic, e-commerce in Africa lagged behind compared to other parts of the world, but now these platforms seem to be the solution to many people's fears.
Still in South Africa, the world's deepest gold mine, South Africa's Mpumalanga mine, has shut down operations after 53 coronavirus cases were detected there. The mine had only resumed operations in April after being shut the previous month as a result of the nationwide coronavirus lockdown. The Gauteng Provincial Health Department said on Sunday the mine will remain closed until further notice. South Africa has reported more than 22,000 coronavirus cases and deaths have risen to 429. When we return, international news. Protest in Hong Kong over China's proposed new legislation.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Protests broke out in Hong Kong over the weekend in opposition to a proposed new legislation by the Chinese government. Under the proposed new law, what China calls secessionism and subversive activity would be banned, and it could allow Chinese security agents to operate in the territory. Pro-democracy campaigners say it amounts to a threat to Hong Kong's autonomy. Marchers defied social distancing rules and a water cannon as they demonstrated against Beijing's plan for the territory. Hong Kong police welcomed the thousands of protesters with tear gas, water cannon and pepper spray on Sunday. China had revealed on Friday its plan to circumvent the territory's legislature to impose a national security law on Hong Kong that would allow the central government to impose a national security law on the island to prevent and punish acts of secession, subversion, or terrorism activities that threaten national security. That move would also allow Chinese national security organs to set up agencies in Hong Kong. The world has widely criticized this move, and the U.S. has even threatened consequences for China. Dozens of demonstrations were held across Germany on Saturday as part of a protest movement against coronavirus lockdown measures, which is gaining momentum. The rallies have been held weekly since the start of April, swelling in recent weeks the gatherings of thousands in major German cities. And correspondent Natalie Corney reports.
Demonstrators are again out in numbers in cities all across Germany this weekend, arguing against the COVID-19 measures implemented by the government, claiming that they evoke panic and are an infringement on personal rights and freedoms.
Actually, since 2 months, we have empty hospitals. We have not the expected number of patients. Actually, we had in the maximum 8% of all intensive care unit beds were occupied by COVID-19 patients. And today it's just 3%. So it's obvious that it cannot be that harmful as it is described everywhere.
I'm now 54 years old, and since I was young, they told me there would be economic wars. And this, for me, is an economic war, absolutely.
While they have the right to protest, demonstrators must comply with strict social distancing regulations. Authorities have also been concerned about the growing presence of far-right activists and conspiracy theorists in demonstrations. Germany's far-right Alternative for Deutschland leader Alice Weidel was expected to speak at Saturday's demonstration in the western city of Stuttgart, which has previously attracted some of the largest anti-lockdown protests in the country. But the event was banned over fears of violence. While restrictions are gradually being eased all across Europe, back here in Germany, more and more tests are being commissioned, with the capacity to now test upwards of 1 million people per week, according to the German Ministry of Health.
As the COVID-19 pandemic affects economies around the world, it's also decimating flows of currency. And for Mexico, which depends a great deal on dollars sent by family members in the United States, the situation in the U.S. is having direct negative impact south of the border. A correspondent, Alasdair Beverstock, reports.
Santos Jaimes, a native of Mexico City, has lived legally in Texas for most of his adult life. He first left his hometown to support his family from afar, working construction north of the border and sending them the dollars he earned. Indeed, at age 71, he's still sending money. Later this week, he'll send his daughter a $50 wire transfer.
It's a difficult situation over there, here too, but we share what we can. She hasn't got much work, and when she can, they pay her about $5 a day. So when I send her some money, it's a huge relief.
He's not the only one to do so. Indeed, dollars sent to Mexico last year hit record levels.
Remittances of dollars are one of Mexico's major economic drivers, totaling more than $36 billion last year, an all-time high. Indeed, US dollars sent south of the border account for roughly 3% of Mexico's gross domestic product.
In rural Mexico, it's clear just how important the money is. In this town, the line for the Western Union snakes around the block. Almost all of this town's younger generation has migrated to the United States, and their relatives depend on the money they send. But amid the pandemic, work is thin on both sides of the border, so record unemployment levels in the US are of great concern here.
No trabajamos aquí.
There's no work for us here, so the money that arrives from over there is what we use to survive. That's the situation here in Mexico. So of course I'm worried. Everyone here is. It affects everyone in this town.
That's a fact well known to Enrique Malacara, the migration minister for San Luis Potosí state, one of the regions of Mexico with a heavy dependence on dollars from the north.
Hay pueblos y hay municipios que dependen.
There are entire towns and regions which depend entirely on money sent from the United States, so they have become a very important economic stimulus, not only for different regions or our own state, but for Mexico as a country.
Amid a pandemic, for many of Mexico's most marginalized, their economic future lies in the fortunes of a country most have never seen.
You are watching ANN.
At your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sport. 18-year-old Arsenal winger Bukayo Saka is set aside in other European clubs. The UK government has released a second phase of guidelines for athletes, elite sportmen and women for organized and close contact training to take place under carefully controlled medical conditions. Public health officials and sports medical officers have contributed to the drafting of the guidelines. Premier League footballers have already returned in socially distanced small groups, but clubs now face a key vote on Wednesday over contact training. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.